So here I am in the French Provence, near Marseille. It's my first time here, and I'm next to Sophie McLean. Hello, Sophie.
Hello,
Thank you very much for being part of my adventure. Sophie was introduced to me as a public speaker, as a person who wants to transform the lives of millions of humanity, and was introduced to me also as an author, and actually as the author of this book, The Elegance of Simplicity, that we will be talking about quite a lot in this interview, if that's all right with you. So Sophie, now we've been discussing how should I introduce you? Now I want you to tell me who you are and what is your mission.
All right. So, who I am, it's a difficult question, right? Because you can answer it being wise or being ordinary. It's in fact an impossible question, because who I really am is who I create myself to be. And to make it easier, from a very early age, I experienced that there was something possible in life that we were not capturing. That I had a very privileged childhood as far as love is concerned, and nurturing and tenderness, so I had no complaints whatsoever. And I could see that there was suffering and conflicts, and so I started reading a lot. And I read all the wisdom of the ages, until I got to the book of Homer, the Iliad and l'Odyssey. And as I read those books, I realized that was, I think, 8th century before Christ. I realized that human being had not progressed in any way, shape or form. That everything else had moved, right? We have technology, medicine, science, computer science. I mean, everything has moved, except human beings. And it's now becoming dangerous. So I don't want to be the dread person that says it's dangerous. But if you put a very powerful weapon in the hand of a child, you're insane, right? We wouldn't do that. Even the key to your car, you wouldn't give to your 6-year-old. So if you imagine human being with this enormous power at their disposal, and their bigness has not altered. So I trained myself to look at the very design of human being, and discovered that in fact we were not at all educated as far as the ego was concerned. That for us the ego was being arrogant or being superior or dominating people, but in fact the ego is everything other than us. So I trained myself, mastered the design of the ego, and by mastering I don't mean that I know it all. It's a constant pursuit.
I like the definition you give of ego at the end of the book in the glossary. You say the ego is the sum of all identifications.
That's right.
Okay, so you know that my series of interviews are about authentic storytelling, right? How does the ego relate to authenticity? Can somebody be identified with our ego, with our pains, with our sufferings, with our stories, and be authentic?
No. No, if you identify with it, you can't. Now, it's a very, life is a paradox, right? Everything is a paradox. So we need an ego to function in this dimension, in this world, in this material dimension. We do need an ego. If you think the ego is who you are inauthentic.
Okay.
So do you see the paradox? You do need an ego, but you have to know you're making it up and you're creating it.
So then you're saying what we are is not our ego, is not our bodies, is not our mind, is not how we operate in this world, where what we are is what?
Oh, if I had that answer, I would be wise indeed, right? I can't answer that question in a few words. I can only have the experience of what I call consciousness, which is very difficult to put into words. In fact, the only access you have to consciousness is by talking about what it is not.
Okay.
That's why I can't quite answer that question.
That is kind of the answer that Morpheus gives Neo in The Matrix.
I must watch the movie again.
It's like you cannot tell what The Matrix is. You have to experience it for yourself.
Right, that's right. It is very real. It is very real. And I know it can be frustrating. You know, there is so many stories about Zen masters and wise men that answer by riddles but I understand it now. Language is too limiting.
I want to talk about language.
Okay, language.
I want to ask you about language because I've always thought, and I'm so glad that a wise person has the same opinion, that language shapes reality. Language creates reality. Now, in your book, you talk about two kinds of languages: the descriptional language and the declarational language. Can you tell me about the difference between the both of them?
Okay, can I go back to language creating reality first?
Absolutely.
Right? So again, another paradox is that the only tool we have to create in this dimension is language, and language is limited. As, for example, I can't talk about consciousness. I can only talk about what it is not. Right?
And not only that, but there's a range of emotions that is limitless, that are unlimited, and language does not does not honor all that immense rainbow of that range of what the human beings can feel, right?
We could describe any emotions we wanted to. We could just make up words. But then we go to what you were asking me about between description and declaration. Right? So most of us use the language of description, so to describe something, you're not the thing itself, right? You talk about the thing. So if I talk about your jacket, I can talk about it, I can describe it, but my talking about it doesn't make any difference about the jacket. The jacket would be blue and be, the way it is. So when you use the language of description, you don't have any power to alter what is. You are a little bit like a spectator watching something. Then the experience of using that language is one of, I do not have a say in the matter of life. Now there is another language that is called the language of declaration. And that is the one that creates your reality. So when you have, marriage, being married is the example that is the simplest, so I'm going to take it again. It's, you get ready to get married. You get engaged, you introduce the other person to your parents or whatever you do, right? You're not married yet. You prepare the whole ceremony, you're not married yet. You go in front of the person that can marry you, that person goes blah, 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 you're not married yet. And then at one point, that person says, I declare you husband and wife, or husband and husband, wife and wife, right? I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And at that moment, you're married. That's the language of declaration. And if you ever tried to get divorced, you see it's very real, right? And that language is extremely powerful because in the moment of the declaration, you create a future that didn't exist before. And it's not fulfilled, that future. It's not the future one day I'll get to it. It's the future now. The moment you say, yes, you are married until death do you part, or I can't remember exactly the vows, right? So that language is available to everybody and can indeed create your life. So when you have a sensation like your heart beating fast, your heart rate going up, you can either say, I am scared, I'm happy, I'm excited. What you will say will give you your experience of being alive. Okay? So that is the whole language we have available to. And as we said, language is limited. So in fact, the fulfillment that people are looking for is beyond language. It is having the experience of something. So when you look at a tree, you can look at the tree and say it's beautiful. Okay, that's the language of description.
Is
right?
it?
Isn't it?
I'm not sure. I was actually going to ask you, let me see if I got it right. So have a glass of water with water in here. And so if I am descriptive, I'm saying this is a glass with water. But if I'm declarational, so let me see if I do this well. So I want to be declarational now. And I'm declaring that this water is going to hydrate me, nourish me, and give me life.
Yes, but that is too simplistic. You see, you can't... The language of declaration... Okay, you could say that. I mean, technically, you could say, okay, that's a language of declaration, right?
Okay.
And your example, even if it's correct, doesn't capture the power of language. Nor the third option that I was talking about, which is the experience of the thing itself. Then you have no separation whatsoever. You know, there are some people that speak about being nature, being the tree.
Yeah.
There is being the universe.
Yeah.
Right. That's beyond language.
So all these tree huggers in between, I count amongst them. But that's not language then. That is being, that is experiencing.
Beyond language, yes. That's why we go back to what we said. Language is limiting and is the tool we have on this dimension.
So there is descriptional language, declarational language, and then there's experience. So which of these three, which one makes you create your life, allows you to create your life, and which one makes you be just an spectator of your life?
I so don't operate in this world, Albert. There is no need to choose.
Okay.
This is a wide range you have available to you. You choose what you want.
So I can use descriptive language and still be creating my life?
Well, of course. You can sometimes sit down, sometimes stand up, sometimes cry, sometimes laugh. The whole range. I think the whole of life is an experience. I think, in fact, life is only and always an experience. So why choose one against the other? No, you can have abundance and have it all. I mean, there is some day I'm miserable and I wallow in it 100%, and some day I'm in full abundance and joy. And the key is to not resist anything.
Not to resist anything. To go with the flow.
No, it's very different.
Okay, let go?
Yeah, more let go. I think people call it acceptation. Is the willingness to experience what is at the moment.
Without adding meaning. Or adding the meaning I wanted to add.
Or at least knowing that the meaning you add is not the truth. That's what awareness is. I don't think you can stop adding meaning except with a very high level of training and constant awareness. But because we give meanings all the time. As human beings, we interpret. This is what language is for. It's very useful. Just know your interpretations are not the truth.
So then, what is the truth?
Well, maybe there is none. You look stunned.
Yeah, because I am a truth seeker.
Oh, well. Oh, dear.
I feel sorry for you, right? That's why.
Well, it's just that you're going to work very hard to find something that I don't think is available to us, again, in this dimension. See, any truth means that somebody that doesn't agree with you has not the truth. Therefore, you go into dogmas. And dogmas are very dangerous and the source of many pain and suffering in the world. Anybody that believes they have the truth, capital T, will get into conflicts and domination. But you can create your own truth knowing it's not the truth.
Okay, so isn't that what filmmakers do, for example? They express the truth, and then the people that vibrate with it feel inspired by it. Would you agree?
So they express their point of view, their point of view or their truth, as you say, and then yes, some people will share in their truth, some others won't, but will get to think. See, I attempt as much as I can to listen to as many point of view as I can in life. Even the ones that are difficult to hear. Like that, I feel I expand my experience. It is difficult to live that way because it's much easier to be right and righteous. I know how it is. But it is a source of conflict.
Okay, let's get real here. Let's go a bit deeper. Because you've been, for many years, you've been leading seminars, personal growth seminars, should I describe them like that? Helping people transform.
Well, I never help people because you only help people that are helpless. So I would certainly help. I would never help someone that would be really insulting for me. I mean, I help children, for example, little children to walk or something. So I support people, or I train people, or I. But help is really a trap.
Okay, I never considered it like that.
Yes. I mean, if somebody is really in a dark hole, I will help them to get out, but, straight away I will make sure they have the power to take care of themselves.
Okay, so I'm bringing back the glass. I'm holding this glass. Can you support me in holding the glass?
You don't need it. You're doing very well.
Okay. Oh, but my muscle is really tired now. It's just I feel like I'm dropping it.
So then you want some help?
Yeah, it's help. Yeah,
yes.
Can you help me?
Well, yes, I would help you if you really had a physical problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we pretend that I have a physical problem?
Sure, I will there.
Okay.
There.
But you took it off me. You didn't.
Yes.
So is that
That's
help?
helping.
That's helping.
That's helping.
So what's the difference between helping and doing something for me?
You ask questions that are so difficult. Helping is helping. That means if your arm is too weak to hold the glass,
yes,
I'll hold it for you.
Okay.
Now, if I want to support you, then I will say, Albert, you go to the gym, my dear, and I'll come with you, and you'll do some weight training so that you can carry a glass to your mouth. That will be support. Help will be to take the glass from you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that distinction.
Yes. So I trained people for years into awareness, right? In examining their lives. We're very busy. Everybody's very busy, very, very, very busy all the time. And just examining your life, just by itself, with no answers. You don't need answers. Just taking the time to examine your opinion, your actions, your feelings, your judgment. That is by itself transformational. Everybody is a philosopher at heart. I mean, I've never met, even children, they're amazing when you talk with children about death and love, and that's what awareness is not to take anything for granted, just question everything.
So, one of my dreams is to have honest media. Honest media, honest TV, honest radio, honest internet, honest TV shows, honest newspapers, honest books, in a way that it supports people instead of massaging their big egos.
And how can you do that?
That's the question I was going to ask you.
You see, the problem with the media is that all we have is a point of view. So you might evaluate your point of view as you say, honest. I think you mean authentic. But it's still a point of view. So maybe the way to have authentic media that will really provide people with the opportunity to make up their own point of view will be a media that will give so many different point of view that people will say, will look, let's say, at 10 point of views and then make up their own. The problem with the ego is that we don't like watching different point of views because it invalidates ours. So mostly what we do as people, we watch what goes in agreement with our own point of view.
And that's related to what you mentioned in the book about listening, that really people don't listen. They hear, and you can hear from your egos, but to listen is not a passive action, is very active. It's to create a connection with another human being. How do you do that when there's a camera in between?
I don't understand the camera.
Listening.
Yes, yeah, but why did you talk about the camera?
There's people that's gonna be
for the media.
Watching this
right.
through this medium that is video.
Right. Oh, right. Okay, I can answer your question.
So
I understood.
And you were earlier, if I can say, were earlier mentioning that you want to record these videos for your website, and I was suggesting look at the camera because you're talking to people that are watching your website.
Right.
So how do you allow or create the space to create real listening when there's a medium in between?
I don't think the medium is that much of a problem. It all comes from you. That's the good news, by the way. It's always you, right? So, because if it's not you, then you have no power. So the camera is just an object. Like right now, I know you're filming me, but I'm interested in giving you what I have to give you and answering your question as much as I can. And then whoever will watch the video, maybe it will make a difference with them, right? The camera is just a tool, so it's not much interest to me. Right? So the art of listening and the access is very simple. The elegance of simplicity.
Yes.
It's giving up. You have to give up everything. You have to give up your opinion about my nose, my eyes, my clothes. You have to give up my accent, your opinion, your judgment, your evaluations, your fear, your comment about what I'm saying. All that has to be given up. So there is nothing. And when there is nothing from you, then you will actually be able to listen and have an experience of the other person. See, that is so extraordinary. Can you imagine if we could, by listening to people, actually have an experience of what it is to be them? Do you see how rich our life will be? Whoever you would meet, you will get another experience of life. And life is an experience. So it's a question of it's an adventure for me. Truly, it's a gift. I mean, it's a gift. It's, you give up everything. Mainly opinion, judgment, evaluation, fear, thinking about something else, commenting about what the other person just said, agreeing, disagreeing, right, wrong, good, bad. Okay, give up everything. Then you'll have an experience of the other person.
Is that what the mysticals talk about? Unity? Having the experience of all being one?
So let's see. No, I think it might be the access, but the oneness you're talking about is beyond language. That we talk about the realm of consciousness. The realm of listening is still in this dimension and in language, right?
But we have to bypass our ego to be able to truly, authentically listen.
You have to own or tell the truth about it if you want. Bypass the ego, it's a bit strange. So how are you going to bypass your ego? Do you know what I mean? You have to be aware of it.
Okay, so this is something that just recently learned, right? That my ego is always gonna stay there for the rest of my life, talking to me, telling me these stories, and it's just my choice whether to buy those stories or not to buy them. Yes, is that what you would say?
Okay, so we build our ego as a protection. Very young age, you build. And the ego is what you call your persona, or your personality, or your character. Now, that character works. There is a side of it that works, and there is a side of it that doesn't work. Like we all know that we have strong points and weak points, right? So all that is the ego. Right? So it's not all bad. In fact, without ego, I don't know if we could survive on this earth. Right? Awareness is when you are conscious of being the source of your ego, and that consciousness, or awareness, let's not mix everything, that awareness allows you to get out of that trap that you build, which is quite limited, and have the full range of being. Right? So I'll give you an example, it will be easier. Yes. My ego was a kind of superwoman, right? So I just like save people and superwoman, and that was my strong side, right? And then the pitfall for me was loneliness, because, you know, superwoman is not very social, you understand? She's perched on a roof somewhere by herself, waiting for who to save, you understand? And then when I got what my ego was, and that I had created it and I was responsible for it, then the full range of being was available to you, to me. So for example, when I go on a date, right? Superwoman, not too good. Not too good, it's a bit intimidating. So now I'm able to be charming or sexy or funny, which I wasn't inside of the small trap that I had constructed called my character. See? So in fact, liberation comes from being aware of having constructed your ego, and then you're free, you're liberated.
How were you being authentic when you were leading the seminars, doing public speaking? Because so I'm doing some public speaking training as well. I've been doing for the last 3 years, and I'm very aware that sometimes when I get up on the stage, sometimes it's like I transform. It's not myself.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm very aware of my movements, my words, my tone. Sometimes I'm not. I just like get flowing. I kind of forget what I say. How was your experience, and how is nowadays your experience with public speaking?
Well, it depends what my intention is, right? But when I led all those seminars, my intention was to give access to transformation to people, and I care a lot. Don't ask me why. I just care for people. I'm not saying I like people. I mean, I do like them, but sometimes some are not very attractive. But I care. I care that they live life to the fullest. I don't know why. And so my attention when I led the seminar was on them. And that is so delicious. Because when your attention is on you, really you say that's your ego, right? And it's heavy. We all know that. We have this little voice in our head. We just agonize over doing the right thing or the wrong thing. So I adore leading, because then I'm over there with the people. And frankly, then I don't care how I look or how I sound or should I lose some weight or, what do they think about me? Because I'm over there for them. And I think that's why people say when the fulfillment of life is to serve others. The Dalai Lama said it, and I never forgot. He said, if you seek enlightenment for yourself, you're a fool. But if you seek enlightenment to give it to others, then you're a wise person. And the experience matches what you do. So if you seek enlightenment for yourself, you're really, in fact, adding to the trap of the ego.
Why did you write this book?
Why did I write it? Well, I've had a very full life. I've led to nearly 100,000 people. I had a lot of experiences, and 100,000 people is nothing compared to 8 billion people. And I really, really think that the 21st century is a century of consciousness, spirituality, the feminine, and I thought, okay, well, let's write a book and put everything in a book, and maybe one person will read it and it will make a difference. Literally, that's why I wrote it.
Okay. I'm going to be nagging you a bit here because last night you mentioned to me twice, you said, I will probably fail in my purpose with this book.
No, not with this book. Not with this book.
Okay.
I will probably fail in my purpose to transform the very culture of mankind, of humankind. To transform the culture of humankind, we're sitting in my house in the countryside in Provence. Nobody knows me. I'm nobody. And I say that what I want to do is transform and participate in the transformation of the culture of humankind. And it makes me laugh. But you know what? It gets me up in the morning, gets my blood going. It's worth my life. And every time I make a difference with one person, I'm happy.
Isn't that selfish?
It's not as we say selfish. It is totally in my self-interest. It's very different, selfishness and self-interest.
I want to link that to what the Dalai Lama said, that if you seek enlightenment for yourself, you're playing the game of the ego. And you have to, not that you have to, but that, well, I don't know how to put it in words now, but the kind of to search enlightenment for the whole planet.
But you don't have to, right? So the thing is, if you hear something like what the Dalai Lama said, and then you say to yourself, I should do that, I should serve others, then you're in the trap.
So it's if you feel it.
No, I think you're missing the point of the saying. The point of the saying is you will not get what you are looking for, which is fulfillment, self-expression and joy, if you seek enlightenment for yourself. It's not wrong, it's not bad, but you're a fool. It's like if I keep eating chocolate and want to lose weight, then I'm not bad, I'm not wrong. But, if I eat that much chocolate every day, I am not going to lose weight. So if you want fulfillment, joy, satisfaction, self-expression, don't seek enlightenment for yourself, because that is not the path. But it is not wrong, and you shouldn't do anything else if that is what you need to do right now for yourself.
Okay, well, but I'm very ambitious, and I also, like you, search for the extraordinary in life. And so I want to understand fully what you're saying about looking for your self-interest and waking up in the morning, being on purpose, not minding if you're actually going to succeed in your mission or fail, and looking for, the well-being and enlightenment and the transformation of the whole planet. Where do these two stand? Where is the balance?
Well, I can't be happy fully when I know little children are dying of hunger. I can't. Now, I know I'm hypersensitive and everybody call me very exhausting. But I can't be happy knowing that. I have this love for little children. I think little children should be sacred and everybody should take care of them, like as a priority. Okay, so it's not that I spend all my day going, oh, a little child is dying right now. I do not live like that. I do not. I do not have guilt. I refuse to go to that world. And I will not be fully fulfilled and joyful until I know the last little child on earth is safe. So, is it in my self-interest that everybody transform and that there is no conflict? And yes, it is in my self-interest. It is in my self-interest that my brother is happy. It is in my self-interest that my nieces and nephew are fulfilled. It is in my self-interest that your life works. Because when you become aware, you stop just looking at me. You expand to the world. You do. I have problems saying I'm French. I'm really a citizen of the world. I'm going to sound like a new age junkie, but we all one.
What do you care if you sound like a new age junkie?
I don't care.
Are you talking about the survival of children and the well-being, the physical well-being of children. Because one of the things you mention in the book is that we cannot we cannot discuss existential questions and want to transcend our ego if we have not first our physical needs covered, right?
Oh, yes, you're talking about fear, right? Okay.
Well, I was talking about lack of food, for example, about war, about physical safety.
Yes. Well, it's very difficult to engage in the question like, who am I?
Yeah.
What is my life about if your child is dying of hunger? How can you say I'm going to educate people in ontological possibilities when that person is starving? I mean, let's get real, right? And we're not in Middle Ages anymore. It is not acceptable that some people don't have enough to eat and don't have a roof over their head. And those two things, if they were handled, would allow for humankind, sorry, I'm really trained at saying mankind, but humankind, if everybody had enough to eat and a roof over their head, I think we could really engage into the conversation for what's possible.
Only then?
I can't see people that are surviving in survival physically with bomb falling on their head and their children dying. I don't see how they would care about anything else than staying alive.
So wouldn't it be useful to work in different parts of the planet at different levels? Because those who are sending the bombs, maybe they have access to, because they're safe already, they have access to this other dimension that you talk about, but not the ones that are being bombed.
Yes, you have to work with everybody, for sure. You have to work for everybody. You know, when people are dominating and controlling and wanted to force their view on somebody and manipulate people, those people are as trapped as anybody else. But it's the same. That's what I want to say. They're not more. It's just a different trap. And what's underneath is all fear. So yes, I don't know how to get to them, but somebody once told me that you don't need to get to every single person in the world. You just need to get to a certain number, and when that number is reached, there is a synergy that gets created and everybody follows.
Critical mass.
Critical mass, there, the word. That's right. So, hope they're right.
So we only need a number of aware public speakers, trainers, filmmakers, TV makers, journalists, people that can make a difference.
That's right.
We only need to reach that critical mass so that the whole omelette turns.
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And then my dream becomes possible. Then who knows? I might win after all.
Yeah, you may succeed in your purpose in this life.
There is an enormous ground root? No. Grassroots movement about awareness. It is very exciting wherever you go. I mean, people are not eating animals anymore. People are speaking in a different language. People are inquiring into love, generosity, integrity, connection, consciousness, awareness. It's very exciting. As much as there is conflict and horror, we live in a duality world. There is this grassroots movement that is extremely exciting.
Let's talk about this duality, about between the feminine and the masculine. So we've been living for the last centuries, I would say, for what I've been reading, not that I have been here, that the masculine has been dominating, of course, our society. And this will to control, this authoritarianism, authority. So now we are kind of flipping to the other side, to a more feminine world. There are more women than ever leading companies, leading I don't know if leading countries yet, definitely not enough, but would you say we need more of this feminine energy and more women leading in the world to be able to achieve this critical mass?
Okay, but first you said we're flipping the other side. I really hope we're not doing that, because that would be the same. right? I mean, so I have a theory. Obviously, it's not the truth. I have no idea, right? But I think that I imagine that consciousness has no gender. I don't know. Maybe it has. I don't know. Maybe there is a feminine and the masculine. But all I know is that the feminine and the masculine energy are different. I love the difference, by the way. And that there is space for both. And in fact, when the feminine is coupled with the masculine, and we both have, I want to make sure that I'm not talking about women and men, okay? I am not talking about women and men. The feminine and the masculine, we have that both in ourselves. When those are in harmony, there is a lot of power and, again, fulfillment, joy, peacefulness. So yes, the masculine has dominated, and in my experience, which again I want to stress is not the truth, but in my experience working with people, the masculine ego is more difficult than the feminine ego. It tends to dominate a lot and control and force and take over. The feminine ego is easier, I think, easier. I remember training people, I trained leaders to lead, and somebody with the masculine will come to me and say, how did I do? And the feminine will come to me and say, did they get it? So the feminine had their attention on others, while the masculine was, what about me? Do you see? Yeah, it was very fascinating. I remember just saying, wow. Okay. So I also have compassion. If you have a lot of masculine in you, then you have a bit more work to master your ego. Right? Eckhart Tolle, who wrote The Power of Now, said that during the Inquisition in Spain, they killed 3 to 5 million women. So the feminine, so normally in a woman body you have more feminine, not all the time, but normally, right? So the feminine must have been a threat to the masculine for sure, and it still is, right? Many people that have a lot of masculine say they don't understand the feminine, they can't get it. So I think this century will be about the balance. But what I'm really scared about, right, is that the feminine will make the same mistake than the masculine. Like, we need to have as many head of companies as relax. This is not how it will work. It will work in everyday life, with the masculine and the feminine just finding their place and finding the balance. But I really do hope that the feminine won't make the masculine wrong. This will be such a mistake. This is what people don't understand. Gandhi, when he freed up India, didn't make the English wrong. He just told them, would you please go away? Mandela invited his jewelers at his inauguration. He didn't make them wrong. He said apartheid does not work. See, then it was powerful. So when you get into the right, wrong, true, false, shouldn't, then it will not work. You will create more conflict. So to talk in New Age language, darkness can only be dissipated by light. Darkness cannot dissipate darkness. It's logical, right?
Right.
Okay, there it is.
And also there's no darkness and light, there's just light and the lack of light.
Okay. No, sure. I mean, great. I mean, what's the point?
The point is that actually it's easier to turn the light on instead of fighting the darkness.
Okay, I get that. Very good. Thank you. I got that.
Thank you for your generosity and your kindness. It's an honor for me to be here.
Oh, how nice of you. I mean, not nice, but I get it. I actually got an experience of what you said, so thank you very much.
And that's a very nice expression. I'm going to write it down. I got an experience of what you're saying. Thank you. I don't think I've fully owned that yet, but I will work on that. So okay, I'm a storyteller.
Yes.
And you are a storyteller as well.
Yes.
We're all storytellers,
Yes.
whether with ourselves, we tell stories to ourselves, or with others, we tell stories to others, to our circle, our intimate circle, our social circle. Some people speak on stages, some people speak on cameras, microphones, on books. So what do, in your view, what does the world need all the storytellers out there to do to contribute to the end of human suffering?
I think share their own experience. It's important that we don't use the language of description to talk about things. It's important that you put yourself in, because you have access to authenticity then, right? So share your own experience, the experience of others, and as many different point of views about what's possible. So the temporality people live in is the past, present, future. But the past and the future are not real. There is not a place called the past you can ever go back to, or a place called the future. There is only right now, right? So what many people do is talk about the past, analyze the past, regret the past, judge the past. And that's a big waste of time. So I think even if the past is very useful to learn, right? So you have to get your lesson from what happened in the past. But to stop repeating the past, because if you look at the story of humankind, it's like a repeat, it's a constant repeat of the same thing.
It's like on cycles, never-ending cycles.
It's through sharing, through your experience and what you learn from what happened to you, it's to create what's possible. So that's what I would say. That's speak what's possible. Speak what you learn and what's possible. Inspire people, touch people. Because inspiration, like dream, a life without dream is miserable, and people don't even dare to dream anymore. You know, every time I say I'm participating in the transformation of the very culture of humankind, I laugh. It's my dream, and I'm taking action to fulfill it. So dream and speak your dream. Speak them. If Gandhi didn't speak the freedom of India, it would not have happened. If Mandela had stayed silent about the end of apartheid, it would not have happened. If Martin Luther King didn't claim and scream about equality of races, we would not have advanced. So speak. Speak what's possible. Speak what inspires you. And you can always, always trust what inspires you. There is, you know, it's like a chord, you say, like when it rings, you know something is real because you're inspired. You can never go wrong when you're inspired.
Because you vibrate with it.
That's right. There is a kind of vibration. If you listen to yourself, you will know. So.
And how often do we put up with situations, experiences, people that don't really touch that chord? And how often do we sacrifice our dream for the known because of uncertainty?
The known, or the fear of a bad reputation, the fear of the opinion of others, the fear of being different. It's all fear. People, we all sell out by fear of standing out. And, you know, I got a nickname when I was a child called the Crazy One. It wasn't easy to carry because I was different. I just didn't want to. I just keep asking questions, and so, you know, I mean, when there is, we live in a culture when there is an agreement, it's very difficult to go against the agreement.
Yeah, and people that innovate usually, well, either not anymore, but they used to get burned in the stake.
Look at homosexual, the problem they had, and still have. I mean, in Russia, apparently, they're not free to be.
And that's,
so you have to stand. I think that's what's called taking a stand, right? You have to stand, and then people will try to throw you off your stand, and you keep standing, and then people get used to it.
That's when we've identified that that's our dream and not our ego, right? Some people are very stubborn and like, I want this, I want this, I want this, thinking that this is what they really want, when in reality it's just the story of their life that's telling them you need this in order to be protected or to be right, or to be in control.
Well, when you have a dream and you have a mission, nobody suffers from it. It's a game where everybody wins. That would be, then at least if you're in possibility land. When you're in the world of possibility, nobody loses. That's a marvelous game. Everybody wins. Even if they don't like your possibility, they still don't lose.
Let me read the description that you give about of authenticity in the glossary at the end. If I can find it here. Oh, you don't have a definition of authenticity.
Mm-mm.
Authenticity is not there. So I need to ask you. Okay, tell me in 10 or less words, what is authenticity?
It's knowing that there is no truth, I would say. That nothing is real.
So that's a tool to transcend the ego. Knowing that everything we think is real is just...
But you remember, I told you, we need an ego here, I think.
We what?
We need an ego. I'm talking to you right now. I'm not nothing, I'm actually talking. That is an ego. I'm not that way when I don't give an interview.
Of course.
See, I'm trying to be clear and concise and stand straight and look at you and hoping that everybody's going to understand. So I'm putting on clarity and focus, and I'm speaking in an intelligible way. I hope. That is what somebody would call an ego. But so there is nothing wrong with the ego if you know that you have a choice in the matter, that you're the source of it. Because if I sat here being silent and in nothing, meditating, you would not have an interview.
Yeah, I see the point.
So you want to let go of the fear of the ego. There is nothing wrong with the ego.
As long as you're aware of it.
That's right. The key is awareness.
So tell me about you have a program, right, that you call Access to Awareness. And is this what you teach people?
Yes, everything I've spoke to you. I'm exactly the same in this interview than I will be in doing my courses or my sessions, except that when I do one-on-one sessions, obviously what we do is that we get into the life of my student from birth to where they are now, and until they are crystal clear about how they build their ego. So it's personal. And
once you really know your ego well, then it's when you don't need to be attached to it. So you detach from your ego and you live authentically. Once you got into the source of your ego and you see it, then the work starts. That was the easy part. You see, when you do the sessions with me or whatever, then that's easy. I'm there. So we laugh and we look and I show you where you didn't look and all that. 10 sessions, fantastic, right? That's a great time. Easy. Then that's when people just quit. Because why? Because we go to habit, right? So in my book, I put a chapter on the brain. The cortex. Yeah. And habits, are the most difficult thing to transform. So once you got to the source of your ego, you got it, I put it together myself, I can create what I want, I have the power of creation, I've got my free will back. Now you go back to your life and then you have to build new registers, new habits, new structures to fit what you now want to create. And the pool of the habits is enormous. And that's when some people quit. That's why I just speak to my students once a month after that, and I do some online seminar so that the conversation can keep being alive.
because, the pool of the habits, New Year's Eve resolution, right?
Yeah.
Everybody stop smoking, stop eating chocolate, loses weight, exercise on the 1st of January. I think it lasts, 3 hours? Yeah, habits.
Once I signed up for a gym about 10 years ago on the 2nd of January, and I went 3 times. And then 1 year after, when I could cancel, I cancelled.
Yeah.
Because nobody told me I had to actually go. I just was signing up, and that was the work. So habits, and just discovering the power of habits.
Yeah.
So would you say there are lots of programs out there, because coaching, what they call coaching nowadays, is so trendy, right? They find coaches everywhere.
That's what I was saying, the grassroots movement. There is a movement where people just seek awareness. It makes me rejoice. There is so many things. There is meditation, there is hypnosis, and there is everything. You can do anything as long as what you want is awareness, and there is body work as well. For years I did all this awareness work, and then I suddenly realized, well, what about my body? And then I discovered that things from my past were actually physically in my body. So it was fascinating. I discovered a whole new world. And then I went to nutrition and saw the power of food and what it gave to me. And then I went to dancing. Can you believe I got transformed in learning to dance a tango? That was one of the biggest contributions. I would have never guessed. So anything, as long as you bring awareness. Just find the road that suits you the best. I had a lot of masters because I learned humility. So, and also, I'm somebody practical, and I don't want to spend 35 years handling a problem. Do you understand? I want it fast. If I want to handle something, I don't want to spend 25 years agonizing over it. So I learned to choose my masters for each thing that I took on. So find somebody you trust, learn what they have to give you, and once you've learned, move on.
That's the nature of life.
Yeah. Well, that's how I did it anyway, and that I still do it. I like to meet people that are at another level. They create a gap for me, and I want what they have. So that's why I call them masters, is because until I learn what they have, I'm going to serve them and listen to them. I love learning.
And then you look for another master.
Yeah, then something else will come up. But there is a time also when, that's why I started Access to Awareness, where I need to give back what I have. I can't be the eternal student, because that also becomes an ego and a protection. Instead of being a teacher, then I hid behind being a student, and somebody actually told me to stop doing that. Oh,
but you've been both at the same time, right? I mean, that's about what life is about, right? You're both a teacher and a student.
Yes, that's true. Yes, I think I'll be an eternal student, but it's also the giving away of what I have needs to be a priority.
Okay, well, we could be talking about this for hours, but I think I got a lot from this conversation, Sophie. Thank you very much, Sophie McLean. Labels are so hard to put, so I would just say wonderful human being, wonderful consciousness.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And Albert, I want to thank you for coming all the way from your hometown and from being someone that is interested in making a difference in the world. And you see, I feel never alone, because there is people like you that are taking on to do what you do. So I thank you, I honor you, and I had fun. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sophie.
Aye.